Explain the difference between primary and secondary reinforcers in behavior modification and provide an example of how each can be used in animal training. Answer: primary reinforcers are stimuli that are naturally reinforcing and do not require learning to be effective. These are biological needs, such as food, water, or comfort. For example, in dog training, giving a treat, food, as a reward for desired behavior is a primary reinforcer as it satisfies the animal's biological drive. Secondary reinforcers, on the other hand, acquire their reinforcing properties through association with primary reinforcers. These include things like a clicker sound, verbal praise, or a toy which animals learn to associate with positive outcomes. For example, using a clicker secondary reinforcer followed by a food reward primary reinforcer helps to mark a specific behavior enhancing learning. The key difference is that primary reinforcers satisfy basic biological drives, while secondary reinforcers derive their power from associations with primary reinforcers. Training using both types simultaneously can be effective in establishing long-term behavior change. What is errorless learning and why is it important in animal behavior training, particularly for animals with behavioral issues or fear responses? Answer: errorless learning is a training method that minimizes mistakes and confusion by ensuring that the animal is always given the opportunity to succeed in the learning process. This approach is particularly useful when working with animals that have behavioral issues or fear responses because it reduces the chances of reinforcing undesirable behaviors through failure. In errorless learning, the trainer will often prompt or guide the animal through the correct behavior to prevent any errors or stress responses. This technique helps to build confidence in the animal, especially for those that are fearful or anxious. For example, when training a fearful dog to interact with a new environment, a trainer might gradually expose the dog to different stimuli, starting with less intimidating experiences and increasing difficulty only once the animal is comfortable. The importance of this approach lies in reducing stress and anxiety, which could otherwise exacerbate problem behaviors. By ensuring success at every step, the animal remains motivated and less likely to develop aversive associations with the training process. Mr. Williams has a dog that shows aggressive behavior towards strangers. He wishes to reduce this behavior through counterconditioning. How should Mr. Williams approach this situation using systematic desensitization, and what steps are involved in this process? Answer: Mr. Williams should apply systematic desensitization to reduce his dog's aggressive behavior by gradually exposing the dog to strangers in a controlled manner, ensuring that the dog is never overwhelmed. The process involves the following steps. Identify the trigger. Mr. Williams needs to identify the specific stimulus that causes the aggressive behavior, such as the sight of a stranger. Create a hierarchy of fear. He should rank the situations based on their intensity. For example, the dog might react mildly to seeing a stranger from a distance, but grow more aggressive as the stranger approaches. The least triggering situation should be the first step in the process. Gradual exposure. Start with the least fearful situation. For instance, Mr. Williams could have a stranger stand at a far distance where the dog does not show aggression. At this stage, the dog should be exposed to the trigger at a level where it feels safe. Pair with positive reinforcement. Every time the dog behaves calmly, Mr. Williams should immediately reinforce with a positive stimulus, such as treats or praise. This helps to create a positive association with the presence of strangers. Slowly increase the intensity. Once the dog consistently remains calm at the lowest level, Mr. Williams can gradually move closer to the stranger, repeating the process of reinforcement. This should be done slowly and only when the dog is comfortable. Generalization. After the dog becomes comfortable with strangers in one context, Mr. Williams should generalize the training to different situations and environments, reinforcing calm behavior. The primary goal of this process is to change the dog's emotional response to strangers from fear or aggression to calmness through gradual exposure paired with positive reinforcement. How can a behavior consultant use shaping to modify an animal's behavior? Provide an example with a step-by-step breakdown of successive approximations. Answer: shaping is a process where a behavior consultant reinforces successive approximations of a desired behavior. This technique is particularly useful when the desired behavior is complex or difficult for the animal to perform immediately. The behavior consultant starts by reinforcing simple behaviors that are close to the target behavior and gradually increases the criteria for reinforcement until the animal performs the final behavior. An example: teaching a dog to roll over. Step 1. First first approximation, the consultant would first reinforce any behavior where the dog lies down, as this is the first step toward rolling over. Step 2, second approximation. Once the dog is reliably lying down, the consultant would only reinforce the behavior where the dog turns its head slightly towards its side, moving in the direction of a roll. Step 3, third approximation. The next step would involve reinforcing the dog when it rolls its body slightly, even if it doesn't complete a full roll. Step 4, final approximation. Finally, the consultant would reinforce the dog each time it completes the full rollover, rewarding the complete behavior. A client asks you how they should teach their cat to come when called. What strategies would you suggest, considering the role of reinforcement and the specific challenges in training a cat compared to a dog? Answer: training a cat to come when called requires a slightly different approach due to their more independent nature. However, reinforcement principles still apply. Here are strategies that can be used. Use high-value reinforcers. Unlike dogs, who may respond to verbal praise or petting, cats are often more motivated by food. Start with short distances. Begin by calling the cat from a short distance and reinforce with a treat as soon as the cat responds by coming closer or approaching. Timing is crucial. Immediately following the desired behavior, coming to the trainer with a reward is critical. This reinforces the cat's understanding that coming when called is rewarding. Avoid punishment. Unlike dogs, cats are more sensitive to negative reinforcement, so it's important to avoid punishment or aversive training methods. Gradually increase distance and distractions. Once the cat reliably responds from short distances, gradually increase the distance and introduce mild distractions, reinforcing successful attempts. Create positive associations. Associating the calling with something pleasant, such as food or playtime, will motivate the cat to respond. What are the key differences between counter-conditioning and desensitization, and how can each be used to address fear-related behaviors in animals? Answer: counter-conditioning and desensitization are two behavioral techniques used to address fear-related behaviors, but they differ in their methods and application. Desensitization involves gradual exposure to a feared stimulus in a controlled manner, starting with a level that does not cause a fear response and gradually increasing the intensity over time. The goal is to help the animal become accustomed to the stimulus without experiencing distress. For example, if a dog is afraid of thunder, desensitization might involve playing a recording of thunder at a very low volume and gradually increasing the volume over time while ensuring the dog remains calm. Counter-conditioning involves changing the animal's emotional response to a stimulus. This is done by pairing the feared stimulus with something the animal finds positive. For example, if a dog is afraid of strangers, the trainer might pair the presence of strangers with treats or play to create a positive association. Over time, the dog's fear response is replaced with excitement or calmness. While both methods aim to reduce fear, desensitization focuses on the gradual reduction of the fear stimulus, whereas counter-conditioning focuses on altering the emotional response to the stimulus. Why is it important to recognize stress signals in animals during training, and how can a behavior consultant help clients identify these signals? Answer: recognizing stress signals in animals during training is critical to ensuring that the training process is humane, effective, and does not cause harm or reinforce undesirable behaviors. Stress signals can manifest in various ways, such as panting, growling, avoidance behaviors, or changes in body posture. Ears flatten, tail tucked. These signs indicate that the animal is overwhelmed or uncomfortable, and continuing with training at this point may lead to further stress or even aggression. A behavior consultant can help clients identify these signals by educating them on the signs of stress specific to different species. For instance, with dogs, stress signs might include lip licking, yawning, or avoiding eye contact, while with cats, signs might include twitching tails, ears pinned back, or sudden withdrawal. By teaching clients to read these signals, consultants can help them adjust training approaches to ensure the animal is not pushed beyond its comfort zone, which helps to avoid reinforcing negative emotional states and ensures a positive, productive training experience. What is the role of empathy in human-animal interaction, and how can a behavior consultant incorporate it into their approach to training? Answer: empathy in human-animal interaction involves understanding and sharing the feelings of the animal, recognizing the animal's emotional state, and adjusting training strategies accordingly. A behavior consultant who demonstrates empathy can build trust with the animal and the owner, ensuring that the animal's needs are met in a way that respects its emotional and physical limits. To incorporate empathy into training, a behavior consultant should observe the animal's emotional state, be aware of signs of stress, fear, or excitement in the animal. This ensures that training techniques are tailored to the animal's current emotional state, adjust training to the animal's needs. If the animal is fearful, the consultant may choose a more gradual, supportive training approach rather than one that could overwhelm the animal. This might involve using more positive reinforcement and avoiding punishment. Educate the owner. Help the owner understand how their emotions and behaviors affect the animal. For example, if the owner is frustrated or anxious, the animal may pick up on these cues, which could interfere with the training process. Empathy ensures that the animal's needs are respected, promoting a more positive and effective training environment. Explain the concept of reinforcement and its role in behavior modification. How does it differ from punishment, and what are the potential outcomes of each approach? Answer: reinforcement is a technique used to increase the likelihood of a desired behavior by following it with a stimulus the animal finds rewarding. There are two types of reinforcement: positive and negative. Positive reinforcement involves adding something pleasant after the desired behavior, e.g., giving a treat when the dog sits. Negative reinforcement involves removing something unpleasant when the desired behavior occurs, e.g., stopping an aversive sound when the animal performs the correct behavior. In contrast, punishment seeks to reduce the likelihood of a behavior by introducing something unpleasant, positive punishment, or removing something pleasant, negative punishment. For example, scolding a dog for jumping, positive punishment, or removing attention when the dog misbehaves, negative punishment. While reinforcement encourages the repetition of a behavior, punishment may suppress a behavior temporarily, but it can lead to negative emotional responses like fear or aggression, especially if used incorrectly. Reinforcement tends to create more lasting, positive behavior change. Why is it critical to educate pet owners about proper timing for reinforcement, and how does this affect the success of a behavior modification plan? Answer: proper timing of reinforcement is crucial because it ensures that the animal associates the reinforcement with the correct behavior. If the reinforcement is delayed or provided at the wrong moment, the animal may not link the reward to the desired action, leading to confusion and ineffective training. For example, if a dog is rewarded for sitting, but the treat is given several seconds after the dog has already stood up, the dog may not understand what behavior it is being rewarded for. To ensure success, reinforcement should be delivered immediately following the desired behavior to strengthen the association between the action and the reward. Educating pet owners about timing, such as immediately reinforcing calm behavior or rewarding a behavior only when it occurs at the right time, is essential for the success of any behavior modification plan. This helps create clear, consistent communication between the owner and the animal, promoting faster learning and more reliable behavior changes. Explain the different types of aggression in animals, focusing on their underlying psychological triggers. How would a behavior consultant assess and approach each type in terms of risk management? Answer: aggression in animals can manifest in several forms, each with distinct psychological triggers. The primary types include fear-related aggression, often triggered by perceived threats where an animal may defend itself or its territory when it feels endangered. The animal's fear response leads to a fight or flight reaction, which can include aggression. Pain-induced aggression. This occurs when an animal experiences physical discomfort or injury. When an animal is in pain, it may exhibit aggressive behavior to protect the injured area or prevent further harm. Resource guarding. Animals may become aggressive when they perceive a threat to valuable resources like food, toys, or space. This form of aggression is a defensive mechanism aimed at protecting essential needs. Territorial aggression. This occurs when an animal perceives an intruder near its home or territory. The animal might display aggression to defend its space. And maternal aggression. Mother animals may become aggressive when they perceive a threat to their offspring. The protective instinct toward the young leads to heightened aggression. In risk management, behavior consultants must assess each aggression type by evaluating bite scales, body language, and trigger scenarios. For instance, fear-induced aggression may involve assessing the animal's posture, e.g., tail tucked, ears back, and identifying specific stimuli that elicit aggression. Desensitization techniques can help alleviate fear responses over time, while resource guarding can be managed by counter-conditioning to reduce anxiety about losing possessions. Risk assessment protocols. Bite scale evaluation helps quantify aggression severity, allowing professionals to tailor interventions appropriately. Trigger identification involves understanding what sets off aggressive behavior, environmental stimuli, past trauma, or perceived threats. For severe aggression, crisis intervention techniques like separation, calming, and physical safety measures, e.g., muzzles, should be implemented. Discuss the differences between dominance hierarchies and egalitarian groups in animal behavior. Provide examples of species that exhibit each structure and explain the implications for managing group dynamics. Answer: social structures in animal groups can be categorized into dominance hierarchies and egalitarian groups, each with distinct characteristics. Dominance hierarchies. These are common in species like wolves, primates, and certain bird species where a clear rank system exists. Individuals establish pecking orders with dominant animals having access to resources, mates, and territory. Hierarchies help reduce conflict by setting expectations for behavior within the group. The consequences of a breach in these structures, such as a subordinate challenging a higher ranked animal, can lead to aggression or social stress. Egalitarian groups. In species like bonobos and meerkats, there is no strict ranking system. Instead, individuals have more equal access to resources and mating opportunities. These groups tend to resolve conflicts through social bonding and cooperative behaviors rather than dominance displays. Tension may arise from competition over resources or mates, but the group generally maintains a cooperative structure. Implications for managing group dynamics. In dominance hierarchies, consultants should consider the individual roles within the group when introducing new members or managing behavior. Dominant animals may need to be positively reinforced to maintain order without escalating aggression. In egalitarian groups, the focus is on maintaining group harmony through socialization, with a special focus on cooperative behaviors to prevent tension from escalating into conflict. Sarah, an experienced animal behavior consultant, is working with a new client, Mr. Thompson, who has a dog named Max. Max exhibits fear-related aggression when strangers approach him, resulting in growling and snapping. Mr. Thompson is concerned that Max's behavior may escalate, especially since they plan to introduce him to a new puppy in a few weeks. What approach should Sarah take to address Max's fear-related aggression in a way that minimizes risk to both Max and others? Answer: in this situation, Sarah should use a gradual desensitization and counter-conditioning approach to address Max's fear-related aggression. Here's a detailed plan. Desensitization. This involves exposing Max to the stimuli that trigger his fear. Strangers in a controlled, non-threatening manner. Sarah should begin by allowing Max to observe strangers from a distance that doesn't cause a reaction. Counter-conditioning. Sarah should associate positive experiences, e.g. treats or praise, with the presence of strangers. This helps shift Max's emotional response from fear to positive association. For example, each time Max sees a stranger, Sarah can reward him with treats and calm praise if he remains calm, reinforcing the desired behavior, avoiding escalation. Since Max is already displaying aggression, Sarah must be cautious to avoid triggering an escalation. During training, barriers such as a leash or crate can be used to maintain control and prevent bites. Introducing the new puppy, Sarah should also implement slow and controlled introductions between Max and the new puppy. This may include allowing them to meet through a barrier, initially like a baby gate, to allow Max to adjust gradually. Positive reinforcement for calm behavior should also be used during the introduction. What is the role of body language in assessing aggression in animals, and how does understanding these signals influence intervention strategies for animal behavior consultants? Answer: body language is a critical component in assessing aggression as it provides nonverbal cues about an animal's emotional state. Understanding body language helps behavior consultants recognize early signs of aggression before they escalate into dangerous behavior. A key body language indicators of aggression include tail position. A raised or rigid tail indicates a heightened state of alertness or aggression, while a tucked tail is often a sign of fear or submission. Ear posture. Forward-facing ears may indicate attentiveness or readiness to engage, while flattened ears suggest fear or defensiveness. Eye contact. Staring or direct eye contact is often a challenge or threat, whereas avoiding eye contact can signal submission or fear. Mouth and teeth. A growl or baring of teeth is a clear sign of impending aggression. A relaxed mouth indicates calmness. By recognizing these signs early, consultants can adjust their approach to prevent escalation. For example, if a dog shows signs of tension, e.g. rigid body posture, lip curling, the consultant may choose to use desensitization techniques or controlled distance to reduce the trigger's intensity and avoid aggressive outbursts. What are the primary differences between social grooming in primates and hierarchical structures in dogs, and how do these differences impact behavior consultants' approach to socialization and conflict management? Answer: social grooming in primates and hierarchical structures in dogs are two distinct mechanisms that influence social behavior. Social grooming in primates. Primates like chimpanzees or bonobos engage in grooming to strengthen social bonds and maintain harmony within the group. This behavior is a form of social interaction that serves both hygienic and social purposes, helping to resolve conflicts and solidify relationships. Grooming is often reciprocal, with lower-ranking individuals grooming higher-ranking ones to gain favor, and it helps prevent aggression. Hierarchical structures in dogs. Dogs, especially those in wild packs, exhibit dominance hierarchies where alpha dogs maintain access to resources. These hierarchies are reinforced through behaviors such as posturing, growling, and challenging one another. Aggression can arise when an animal challenges the established order or when resources are perceived to be scarce. For a behavior consultant, the approach to socialization differs based on these structures. In primates, consultants should focus on facilitating positive, social grooming behaviors to enhance bonding and reduce tension, especially in group settings. For dogs, consultants must manage the dominance hierarchies by promoting behaviors that respect the established rank structure, using positive reinforcement for desired behaviors, and correcting challenges to the hierarchy through structured training. How can consultants use bite scales to assess aggression in animals, and what are the ethical considerations involved in using such tools? Answer: Bite scales are a valuable tool for assessing the severity of aggression in animals, particularly for determining the risk involved in handling and managing aggressive behaviors. These scales provide a standardized way of categorizing bite incidents based on factors such as severity of injury, from no injury, level 1, to severe injury or fatalities, level 5. Behavioral indicators. This includes body language, vocalizations, and the type of attack, e.g., defensive versus offensive. For example, a level 1 bite might involve a superficial nip with no injury, indicating low risk, while a level 5 bite may involve deep puncture wounds, indicating high risk. The ethical consideration in using bite scales is the responsibility to avoid harm. Consultants must ensure that the assessment does not involve unnecessary stress or risk to the animal during evaluation. Consultants should also ensure that treatment plans derived from bite scale assessments are humane and tailored to the animal's specific needs, incorporating positive reinforcement and behavioral modification techniques where appropriate. What are the key strategies for resolving social conflicts in a group of animals, and how do factors such as competition for resources and the size of the group influence the consultant approach? Answer: Resolving social conflicts in animal groups requires an understanding of the underlying causes, which often stem from competition for resources, e.g., food, territory, mates, or differences in individual roles. Key strategies include resource distribution management. In cases of resource competition, consultants can use structured feeding routines and space management to reduce conflict over access to resources. Behavioral interventions. Redirecting aggressive behavior through desensitization and counter-conditioning techniques can help reduce tension and encourage peaceful interactions. Increasing space. Ensuring that animals have adequate personal space and escape routes can help mitigate conflict, particularly in larger groups. The group size also affects conflict management. In smaller groups, individuals are more likely to have direct encounters, while in larger groups, hierarchy formation and separation of roles may reduce conflict. Consultants must consider these dynamics when planning interventions. Explain how muzzles and leashes can be used as safety tools in aggression management and what ethical guidelines should be followed to ensure these tools are used appropriately. Answer: Muzzles and leashes are commonly used as safety tools in aggression management, especially in cases of severe aggression. Muzzles prevent biting and help consultants manage aggressive behavior without the risk of injury. They are particularly useful during training sessions or behavioral assessments, providing a safe environment for both the animal and the handler. Leashes help control an animal's movement, preventing it from engaging in aggressive behavior while maintaining physical control over the animal during training or exposure to triggers. Ethically, these tools should be used only when necessary and in a way that does not cause distress or harm to the animal. Muzzles should fit properly to ensure the animal can breathe and drink comfortably and should never be used for prolonged periods. Leashes should be used in a non-confrontational manner to avoid reinforcing fear or aggression. The key is using these tools as part of a comprehensive, behavior-modifying strategy that prioritizes the well-being of the animal. How do early socialization techniques in puppies influence their future behavior, and what are the most critical experiences they should be exposed to during this period? Answer: Early socialization in puppies is crucial for developing well-adjusted adult dogs. During the critical period around 3 to 14 weeks, puppies are more receptive to new experiences and stimuli. Key factors include exposure to various environments and people. Puppies should be exposed to a variety of people, sounds, surfaces, and locations. This helps them develop resilience and confidence in different situations. Positive experiences with other dogs. Controlled interactions with other puppies and adult dogs help prevent future fear-based aggression and facilitate appropriate play behaviors. Handling and grooming experiences. Gentle handling, including being touched, brushed, and bathed, helps prevent fear or discomfort during routine care later in life. These experiences should be positive and non-threatening, using treats and praise to reinforce good behavior. Socializing puppies early ensures they are better equipped to cope with adult life, leading to fewer behavior problems later on. What is the role of gradual exposure in mitigating aggression, and how does this technique align with principles of desensitization and counter-conditioning? Answer: gradual exposure is a cornerstone of aggression mitigation, particularly for fear-related aggression. By exposing an animal to its trigger in small, manageable increments, it allows the animal to adjust without feeling overwhelmed. This technique is closely aligned with desensitization and counter-conditioning principles. Desensitization involves gradually increasing the intensity of the stimulus, e.g., the presence of strangers, while ensuring the animal remains below the threshold for aggressive behavior. Over time, the animal becomes less reactive. Counter-conditioning changes the animal's emotional response to the stimulus by pairing it with something positive, such as food or praise. This helps the animal associate the trigger with positive outcomes rather than fear or aggression. Together, these techniques provide a structured and effective method for addressing aggression, gradually reducing the animal's anxiety and improving its response to previously triggering stimuli. How would you prioritize behavioral goals in a treatment plan for a dog with aggressive behavior towards other dogs? Answer: when creating a treatment plan for a dog with aggression towards other dogs, the first step is to address immediate safety concerns. This means identifying any behaviors that pose a risk of harm to the dog, other animals, or humans. Immediate safety should be prioritized to ensure no further incidents occur during the treatment process. Once safety is assured, the next step is to develop short-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals might focus on immediate behavioral changes, such as reducing the frequency or intensity of aggressive outbursts. Long-term goals would aim to address the underlying triggers of aggression, such as fear, territoriality, or lack of socialization. The behavior modification strategies should include positive reinforcement to reward calm behavior, counter-conditioning to change the dog's emotional response to other dogs, and systematic desensitization to gradually expose the dog to less intense social situations. Relevant guidelines law. Behavior modification techniques should always follow ethical guidelines that prevent harm to the animal. For example, American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior (AVSAB) guidelines emphasize the use of positive reinforcement and stress the avoidance of punitive methods. What is the role of enrichment in managing behavioral issues in shelter animals, and how does it contribute to stress reduction? Answer: enrichment plays a crucial role in the management of shelter animals by providing them with mental and physical stimulation, which can reduce stress and improve overall well-being. Shelter animals often experience a high level of stress due to confinement, lack of social interaction, and unpredictable routines. Physical enrichment includes toys, climbing structures, or exercise equipment, which helps release pent-up energy and prevents destructive behaviors like chewing or pacing. Cognitive enrichment, such as puzzle feeders and foraging games, stimulates the animal's brain and can reduce signs of boredom and frustration, which may lead to behavioral problems like barking or self-injury. Social enrichment, which involves safe interactions with other animals or humans, fosters positive social behavior and reduces fear-based reactions. Stress reduction strategies should be integrated into environmental management. This includes providing safe spaces for animals to retreat to when overwhelmed and ensuring that their environment is as calming and predictable as possible. Relevant guidelines law. The American Animal Hospital Association (AHA) stresses the importance of environmental enrichment for all animals, particularly those in shelters. A client reports that their cat, who has been diagnosed with separation anxiety, has become destructive when left alone at home. What treatment plan would you recommend, and how would you assess its effectiveness over time? Answer: for a cat diagnosed with separation anxiety, the treatment plan should focus on reducing anxiety during absences. Key components of this plan would include gradual desensitization. Begin by leaving the cat alone for short, controlled periods of time and gradually increasing the duration as the cat becomes more comfortable. Positive reinforcement. Use rewards like treats or playtime when the cat remains calm during the absence, reinforcing the desired behavior. Environmental enrichment. Ensure that the cat has enough physical and cognitive stimulation, such as puzzle toys and scratching posts, to distract and engage the cat when left alone. Medication, if necessary. In cases of severe anxiety, veterinary intervention may be necessary, where medication, e.g., anxiolytics, may be prescribed. To assess effectiveness, track the frequency and intensity of destructive behaviors, the cat's response to desensitization sessions, and its overall well-being using metrics such as the frequency of destructive incidents and signs of stress, e.g., excessive vocalization or urination. Mr. Thompson is working with his dog, Charlie, who has a history of leash reactivity. Despite Mr. Thompson's efforts to use positive reinforcement, Charlie continues to lunge at other dogs during walks. How should Mr. Thompson adjust his approach to improve Charlie's behavior? Answer: Mr. Thompson's first step should be to assess whether the reinforcement process is being implemented correctly. In cases of leash reactivity, the trigger other dogs is often too overwhelming, leading to the dog's inability to focus on the positive reinforcement. To adjust the approach, Mr. Thompson should consider the following steps. Distance management. Increase the distance between Charlie and the trigger's other dogs. Start training sessions at a distance where Charlie is aware of other dogs but does not react. Gradually decrease the distance over time as Charlie's tolerance improves. Counter conditioning. Replace Charlie's negative emotional response to other dogs with a positive one. This can be done by pairing the presence of other dogs with high-value rewards, e.g. treats, toys, to create a positive association. Alternative behaviors. Train an alternative behavior, e.g. sitting, focusing on Mr. Thompson. When Charlie notices another dog, this can redirect his focus away from the reactivity. Consistency and patience. Mr. Thompson should remain consistent in rewarding the desired calm behaviors and be patient with progress, recognizing that leash reactivity can take time to resolve. ECA treatment plan for a dog with fear-based aggression. Why is it important to address the dog's emotional state, and how would counter-conditioning be used effectively in this context? Answer: fear-based aggression is a response to perceived threats, and addressing the dog's emotional state is essential to prevent the escalation of aggressive behaviors. Without addressing the fear, the aggression is likely to persist or worsen as the dog tries to protect itself from what it perceives as a threat. Counter-conditioning is particularly effective because it works by changing the dog's emotional response to a trigger. The process involves pairing the feared stimulus, e.g. another dog or a loud noise, with something the dog finds rewarding, such as treats or play. Over time, the dog learns to associate the previously feared stimulus with positive experiences, thus reducing fear and aggression. For example, if a dog is aggressive towards other dogs due to fear, the behavior consultant might recommend starting with distant encounters where the dog can see the other dog but does not feel threatened. The consultant can reward the dog with treats when it remains calm, gradually decreasing the distance between the dogs as the dog becomes more comfortable. Explain the concept of environmental management in behavior modification and provide 2 examples of how this might be implemented for an animal with destructive behavior. Answer: environmental management involves modifying the animal's environment to reduce triggers and minimize opportunities for undesirable behaviors to occur. The goal is to create a structured and predictable environment that supports the animal's well-being and fosters positive behaviors. For an animal with destructive behavior, such as a dog that chews furniture when left alone, environmental management might include access control, restricting the dog's access to areas where it tends to destroy furniture, such as by using baby gates or crating the dog when unsupervised. Provision of enrichment. Providing safe and engaging alternatives for the dog to chew, such as chew toys or food puzzles, to redirect its energy and focus on positive activities. By managing the environment, the dog is less likely to engage in destructive behaviors due to boredom, anxiety, or lack of stimulation. Relevant guidelines law. The American Humane Association supports the use of environmental management strategies to prevent problem behaviors in animals, particularly in cases where the animal's behavior may be driven by stress, boredom, or a lack of enrichment. How can you incorporate client education into a behavior modification plan, and why is it crucial for long-term success? Answer: client education is a critical component of behavior modification because it empowers the client to consistently implement the treatment plan and helps prevent setbacks. Educating the client ensures that they understand the underlying causes of the animal's behavior, how to reinforce desired behaviors, and how to recognize and manage triggers effectively. Key aspects of client education include consistency. Teach the client the importance of consistent reinforcement and responses to the animal's behavior. This prevents confusion for the animal, which can otherwise derail progress. Realistic expectations. Help the client set realistic expectations about the timeline for behavior changes, as some behaviors may take longer to modify. Addressing misconceptions. Common misconceptions, such as the idea that punishment is effective for behavior modification, need to be corrected. Clients should understand the importance of positive reinforcement and how punitive measures can lead to worsened behavior or increased stress. What is the role of progress tracking and evaluation in a behavior modification plan, and which metrics are most important to monitor? Answer: progress tracking and evaluation are essential to determine whether the behavior modification plan is effective and whether adjustments are needed. By regularly assessing progress, the consultant can ensure that the animal is improving and can identify any areas that need further intervention. The most important metrics to track include frequency, the number of occurrences of the targeted behavior, g. how often the dog barks at strangers, intensity, the severity of the behavior, which could be rated on a scale from mild to severe, g. the dog's level of aggression during encounters with other dogs, duration, how long the behavior lasts when it occurs, g. how long the animal engages in destructive behavior before being redirected. Tracking these metrics allows the consultant to make data-driven decisions about whether to adjust the plan, intensify certain strategies, or introduce new interventions. What are the ethical considerations when working with animals displaying aggressive behaviors, and how do these considerations influence the treatment plan? Answer: when working with aggressive animals, ethical considerations revolve around the well-being of the animal and the safety of others. The consultant must ensure that the treatment plan is humane and based on evidence-based techniques that prioritize the animal's welfare. Ethical considerations include non-aversive techniques. The use of aversive methods, such as shock collars or harsh punishment, is ethically problematic and can exacerbate aggression. The treatment plan should focus on positive reinforcement, counter-conditioning, and desensitization. Safety. The safety of both the animal and the people or other animals it may encounter should be a priority. This might involve implementing safety measures like muzzles or controlling exposure to triggers during the initial stages of treatment. Animals' emotional health. Ethical behavior modification respects the animal's emotional needs. Interventions should aim to reduce fear or anxiety rather than simply suppressing the behavior. How would you approach treating an animal with generalized anxiety, and what factors should be considered when developing a treatment plan? Answer: treating generalized anxiety in animals requires a comprehensive approach that includes both behavior modification and environmental management. Key components of the treatment plan include desensitization and counter-conditioning, gradual exposure to the anxiety-inducing stimuli, g. loud noises, unfamiliar people, combined with positive reinforcement to change the animal's emotional response, enrichment, providing physical and cognitive enrichment to alleviate boredom and stress. This may include puzzle feeders, toys, and safe interactive activities. Medication, if needed. In cases where anxiety is severe, medication prescribed by a veterinarian may be necessary to manage symptoms while behavioral interventions are implemented. When developing the treatment plan, it is important to consider the animal's specific triggers, current living environment, and any medical conditions that may contribute to the anxiety.